What is the doctrine of God called in the Quran? In Islam, what is the doctrine of God called? Tawheed. Is that in the Quran? So we have to make sure when we read John 17, which you referred to, that we also read John 14, where in John 14, Jesus says, when I am gone, whatever you pray in my name, I will hear it and I will do it for you. Jesus is saying, when I'm gone, so he's not there, he can hear people's prayers, so he has to be omniscient. And I will do it for you, omnipotent.
In this video, a group of Muslims challenged Dr. Nabeel Qureshi on the divinity of Jesus Christ and the concept of the Trinity. What follows leaves everyone silent, as Nabeel delivers one of the clearest and most powerful biblical explanations ever heard.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
So being a Muslim, as you can already mention, my main problem is with the Christian doctrine of Godhood of Jesus. So there's a couple of questions that are related. First of all, I find this concept logically fallacious. Like there are many aspects to its logical fallacy, as in maybe one of them could be that how can God be finite and then infinite at the same time? Like this is like it's like saying that there could exist a square circle. It's a logical fallacy, right? So when we say that Jesus was God or Son of God, we are actually saying that God existed in finitude during the life of Jesus, and he also is infinite at the same time. This is logically fallacious. Now, because you are you're coming from a historical standpoint.
Did you want me to respond to that, or are you heading
it's a relate, like the same question continuing. So because you're coming at it from a historical standpoint, another thing that adds, like the historical evidence that adds, that supports this argument, is that the concept of Trinity, the word Trinity itself, it doesn't appear as a theological term till near the end of the 2nd century after Jesus. So it was first used as trias by Theophilus, the bishop of Antioch, in AD 180. So we can, adding up to that, when you refer to Mark chapter 14, verse 62, which is what you say is the proof that Jesus claimed to be God, are you really applying the same criteria of objectivity that you were applying previously to the Quran when interpreting this as meaning that Jesus is claiming himself to be God? Because if you look at it completely objectively, looking at the entire text, there is nothing in the entire text that's saying that Jesus is claiming to be God. And in fact, the verse that you yourself quote is actually saying Son of Man. So, I mean,
these are great questions. Don't go anywhere. What's your name?
Munzir.
Munzir, where are you from?
I'm from Pakistan.
Pakistan. बहुत खुशी हुई आपसे मिलके. I had the exact same questions when I was when I practiced Islam. What I want to point out is that first and foremost, what we have to see is what Jesus claimed for himself. Now, the secondary stuff that follows, the theological unfolding or unpacking of what he said, we can spend years and years debating what it means. But what did he say about himself? That's the first thing we want to look at. So again, that's a historical perspective. Theologians argue all day long, back and forth, back and forth. You know, theologians argue all the time, and I just sit back and watch and smile because you can't really prove it one way or another. But when it comes to historical events, we can show with relative degrees of certainty, if the evidence is good, if the records are good, what the most likely conclusion is. So first, and let me give you an answer before, if you feel like interjecting, we can talk afterwards. First, I want to point out you are absolutely right. The term Trinity is not used till the end of the 2nd century. What is the doctrine of God called in the Quran? In Islam, what is the doctrine of God called?
Tawheed.
Tawheed. Is that in the Quran?
No,
the word Tawheed.
The word Tawheed is a derived word from Ahad.
Alhamdulillah, good. So you understand, the word Tawheed is not itself in the Quran. In the same way, the word Trinity is not itself in the Bible. This doesn't pose a problem. The Shahada is not found in the Quran. You have the components of the Shahada in the Quran, but you do not, you do not have La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah in that way found in the Quran. The components are found in the Quran. With the Trinity, the components are found in the Bible. So
the word tawheed does appear in the hadith.
Oh, that's great,
Which
but
is-
it's not in the
which is
Quran.
narrations of the Prophet.
And the hadith is much later. So we're looking at you asked for the Bible, and we have within the early canonical tradition, people calling God a Trinity in the early canonical tradition. In fact, much closer to Jesus' time than the hadith were to Muhammad's time. So whichever way you stack it, when you're consistent, you end up with a stronger case for the Trinity, for Jesus' deity. Now I want to continue on to your next part of your question, which is Jesus finite or infinite? The argument is that Jesus is, actually I'm going to pose it in a slightly different way. Can Allah come onto this world if He wants? Can He be in this world if He wants?
I wouldn't think so.
You wouldn't think so.
Because
So Allah's omnipotence is limited. He can't come onto this world.
it's like basically Allah Ta'ala cannot do logically fallacious thing. Like He cannot create a square circle, right? Because that's something logically
But
fallacious.
how do
So
we
there
know
are
that's what
certain
this
things
is?
that Allah
But
cannot
how do we know that's what this is? Because, for example, in Surah Al-Imran, when Allah is talking to Moses, it says in Surah Al-Imran, I think it's Surah Al-Imran, it might be Surah 18, but double check, that Allah, as He spoke to Moses, Allah was in the bush. Allah was in the bush. So if you want to say that meant something else, well, you're going to have to argue with the Quran on that one. It seems to be pretty clear that Allah can emanate His voice from a physical place. He can be in a physical place in a sense. In the same way, I don't believe that God coming to this earth limits His omnipotence. It's not a limitation of His omnipotence. Jesus has taken on flesh. God the Father is still everywhere. God, Jesus, the Son, is here on this earth. It's a limitation in that sense, but it's not a limitation of His nature. He is both the divine and human nature. That's the argument. Now, I want to talk about briefly, and then we're going to have to go to the next question, but let's talk afterwards for sure. You asked about the Son of Man. You said He's not calling Himself the Son of God. He's calling Himself the Son of Man. I'm emphasizing to you, my friend, when this hit me, again, while I was practicing Islam, when this hit me, it hit me like a bolt of lightning. The claim Son of God, according to Jews at that time, was not anything divine. Adam was called the Son of God. Solomon was called the Son of God. In the Psalms it says, you are gods. It's not a divine claim to call someone a son of God. But when someone refers to that Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven, who's going to receive glory, authority, and sovereign power, and people of every nation and language are going to worship Him with the worship due only to God, that Son of Man is more than just a human. He is divine. He's going to be worshipped by all people of all time. So when Jesus calls Himself the Son of Man, it's not the Son of God title. And lots of Christians get this wrong, so I'm not pointing the finger at you. Lots of Christians say, oh, Son of Man means He's human, and Son of God means He's God. No, it's the other way around. In the Jewish context, Son of God was a normal human title. Son of Man, from Daniel 7, that was something divine. Go back and read Daniel chapter 7. See that this man is worshipped by all people from all eternity. This man, or one who looks like a human anyway, is worshipped by all people alongside of God the Father. That's the one Jesus is claiming to be. Definitely understand that point that I'm trying to make. And so when you see that Jesus' claim is found there in Mark 14:62, it's found in all the Gospels, and every time Jesus uses the term Son of Man, He's alluding to that. You cannot extract that from the Gospels. So please put Mark 14:62 next to Daniel chapter 7 and see what Jesus is claiming for Himself. And we'll talk afterwards for the rest. Lord bless you, my friend. We'll take one last question.
Hi, thank you for this great talk. I really admire the fact that you argue with reason and facts. So my question was basically in John 5, if you read from 19 onwards, Jesus says that he can actually do nothing, and that wherever His power is coming from the Father. And John 5:30 He says, I can of my own self do nothing. And as I hear, I judge, for my judgment is just, for I seek not my will, but the will of the Father. And also in John 17, He says that I have completed your mission that God Father gave Him on this earth. And at that time, He was not crucified. And also, last part, I'm sorry. In Old Testament, Abraham was visited by God with two angels. That's in Genesis.
Three angels.
God, I thought like it was God and two angels. That's what.
All three of those angels are God. It's very interesting when you read it carefully.
Okay, but in human form, right?
Yes.
In human form.
Yes.
So was God Jesus at that time?
Okay.
Because in human form, did He come as Jesus?
Great question. Great series of questions. The first thing I want to mention again is, one more time, I'm not a theologian, so I don't deal with Genesis per se. I deal with the historical aspect of Jesus. But I can look at what Genesis says, and I can't be sure. Are those three angels Jesus? Is one of them Jesus? Is it not? We can't be sure. Nothing is said. And I don't want to say that the Bible says something that it doesn't say, because that's a very dangerous thing. That's why you have people saying that the world is going to end this May. You know, it's like, no. You put something in the Bible that's not there. And so I want to be very careful with that. I'm taking Genesis for what it says at face value. Are those three God? Is one of them Jesus? Are all three of them Jesus? Are all three of them Yahweh? One's Father, Son, Holy Spirit? I don't know. It's not said clearly. When it comes to the Gospel of John, though, I want to encourage you. The Quran and the Bible are not the same book, of course, but a lot of times we come to them exegetically as if they were. Muslims and Christians will come to the Quran exegeting them as if they were their own book, or they'll come to the Bible exegeting it as if it was the Quran. This is a problem. The Quran was not written like the Bible. How was it written? Muhammad would receive a revelation, or so the Islamic sources say, about 5 verses at a time, generally speaking, according to the Hadith. He would relay to his scribes. The scribes would write them down. And that was one recitation. And later again, and later again, later again, and then at the end, and sometimes it'd be longer, at the end all of them were collected when he died. So it's very possible that one section of the Quran, one verse, has very little to do with the next verse, at least at face value. That's why you have the whole series of hadith called Asbab an-Nuzul, which I'm sure you're familiar with. The hadith that say, this is when this verse of the Quran came, this is what it means. This is when this verse of the Quran came, this is what it means. That's who the tafsir of the Quran, that's where they get this stuff from, the Asbab an-Nuzul hadith. And so you need the hadith to exegete the Quran, because one verse does not necessarily relate to the next. Bible's not like that. In the Bible, the Gospel of John, John 1:1 relates to John 21. It's all related. So you need to read the whole book before you try to pull a part out and exegete it. And I'm not saying cherry picking is necessarily a negative intention. It's just what happens when you've exegeted the Quran that way for so long. So we have to make sure when we read John 17, which you referred to, that we also read John 14, where in John 14, Jesus says, when I am gone, whatever you pray in my name, I will hear it and I will do it for you. Jesus is saying, when I'm gone, so he's not there, he can hear people's prayers, so he has to be omniscient. And I will do it for you, omnipotent. Right there, same discourse. We can't divorce the two. It's the same discussion. In the same way, we cannot leave out John chapter 1. When John writes his gospel, he expects everything that you read in there to be interpreted through his introduction. The introduction of John's gospel is vitally important. For example, my book that I wrote, I don't know where it went. If you don't read the prologue of that book, you're not going to get a lot of it. You're not going to get a lot of it. You have to read the prologue. It explains the rest. In the same way, John chapter 1, verse 1 through verse 18 is the prologue of John's gospel. What does it say? It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In the beginning, there was the Word, and the Word was with God, so you have this thing that is the Word. It was with God, and it was God. Already you're having the setup for the Trinity in John chapter 1, verse 1. And then it says, nothing was made in this world apart from that Word. That means the Word is, in a sense, the Creator. John's telling you right off the bat, no matter what you read in John's Gospel, the Word should be understood to be the Creator of this universe. It was created through Him. And then it says in verse 14, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld His glory. He makes it clear this Word is Jesus. And in verse 18, if you have a good translation of the Bible, verse 18 makes it clear that this Word is the only begotten God. That's how you're supposed to read the rest of John's Gospel. So any verse we take should be read in that light. Any verse we take should be read in that light. I forgot the rest of your question.
That was John 5, verse 30.
Which was?
Why is Jesus saying that I can of my own self do nothing when he's actually God himself?
Exactly. Great question. The argument here is that the Jews are saying that you have a demon, that you are not working with God, you're working against God. And Jesus' response is here, look, if I can of my own will do nothing, except through the will of the Father. In other words, he doesn't have a separate will from the Father. Insofar as what he wants to see accomplished, what he wants to see done, he's not standing against his Father's will. So the point he's trying to make is, no, I'm not the devil. I'm not anti-God. I proclaim God. I do his works. I do these healings. I'm not against him. I'm with him. That's the point he's making. And we can read further into that and say, oh, he's not God. But if you do that, you're ignoring the context. You have to let the context speak. And where the context is clearest, that's where exegesis should be the strongest.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. That is going to be all the time we have. Sorry, Ritu. Any
I
final
like
words?
your outfit, though. It's very nice.
Any final words, Dr. Qureshi?
If I have offended anyone tonight, if I have upset anyone, or if I have said anything incorrect, it wasn't my intention. I have come to do the absolute best I could to represent the truth. If you feel I have offended you, I wouldn't mind hearing about it. If you feel I've said something incorrect, I wouldn't mind hearing. In fact, I would love to hear it. If I said something incorrect, please correct me so that I can speak more accurately in the future. I pray that God would bless you all with a true, abundant joy that comes from Him and Him alone, and that you would know Him to the full. Thank you so much.